Hi guys, it's Millennia here. Thanks so much for tuning into my channel again. I am going to do a video about what to eat for your sun, moon, and rising sign. So I'm going to be discussing each of the signs, but first I'm going to be introducing why this might be important to you. I know that a lot of people out there in the YouTube world are wondering what to eat for your ascension path and how to detox your body, because of course that helps you clear your mind and be more focused. And I certainly know that when I am clearer and eating less dairy, especially bad quality dairy, I do a lot better. And so you want to find out for yourself, and that's because of my Cancer rising. So you want to find out for yourself what might correspond to what habits you're following now on a daily basis, if it's a good pattern or if it's a bad pattern to you, which sign is dominating that behavior, and maybe which sign is dominating that activity, that sensitivity for you. So the sun, you might know or might not know that the sun represents the identity. It's the I am. So how I identify with my diet. I identify with my diet that I was raised with from my culture. Maybe I identify with being vegetarian or with a vegan. I identify with being not a vegan, not a vegetarian. I identify with having a specific palate. I identify with somebody who likes spicy food. I'm a person who likes spicy food. I'm a person who does not like broccoli and cauliflower. I am a person who cannot eat garlics. I might identify with my food sensitivities. I cannot have dairy. I cannot have wheat. And some of this comes from our childhood, so what we were fed as kids. So I'm a person that my comfort food is mashed potatoes. I'm a person, my comfort food, I'm from the South. I'm not from the South. I'm just saying that. I might be a person from the South, and I identify that mac and cheese is my cultural food. Or what have you. I'm from the North, so I identify that one of my foods that I relish every year is lobster. Now that doesn't mean that I eat it every day. That's my identity. So that's my sun. The moon is how I feel. It's my emotions, how I feel about my food, what I crave, my comfort foods, and which might go into excesses. So what nurtures me? What food makes me feel like my mommy's there taking care of me? What food makes me feel like I can just wrap up into a ball at the end of a long day and shut out the world? Do you have a tendency towards doing that? Not all signs do. Some signs are very much into, I feel like going into party mode. I feel like having a full out rager, and food is part of that. And so that's also a form of escapism. Whereas other signs feel more like, so Sagittarius, for instance, wants to have a full out rager and like use food and drink to engage with other people, but it's still, it's like misery loves company, right? Or parties love company. Like we want to bring as many people into the party so that we can all kind of have a debauchery. Whereas Cancer is very much like, I want to nurture my wounds with food. I just want to sit here and eat my ice cream. And whereas Pisces might be, I'm just going to drink or do this drug all night long and just forget about all the problems. And so different signs do it differently. And Leo might not do that at all. Leo might just have a specific interest in one, thread of what they want in their diet and go with that. So let's just see how it goes through as we go into the signs. The ascendant is all about how we relate to our day-to-day. How do we relate to our lifestyle, let's say? And so now that lifestyle is so big and incorporated into our day, or like into our consciousness, let's say, then how we eat on a daily basis, what we're trying to force ourselves to eat, how we're trying to adopt a new lifestyle, how we're trying to make changes, how we're trying to show up in our relationship through food, how we're trying to show up in our work life through food, how we're trying to show up in our daily life. Like where can I get my green juice every day? Or where can I, is there a drive-through on the way to work that I can just stop in? And that's really easy. So, I just go to the Whole Foods every day and, go to their salad bar, and that's what I do. And so, and I can do that. That's easy for me. Or I just wake up in the morning and boil an egg. Or I just wake up in the morning and grab a donut at Dunkin' Donuts. Or I just wake. So it's like, how do we incorporate what is easy for us? What feels doable for us? My daily routine, meal prep. Do I prep every Sunday? Do I prep, once a week? Do I cook every night? Do I never cook? Staples that we have at home, staples that we keep in the cupboard. And so as I'm going through the different signs, think about your ascendant. Think about what is possible for you on a daily basis. How can you make changes to your day? Because the day-to-day, as we know, is what sets up our overall health. What we do, once a month in our period, when our moon kicks in, is not necessarily as important, unless the moon really dominates you and you really do eat according to your feelings all the time, which is the case. And sometimes, I've had clients and patients, and we've worked through astrology, and they really start to understand that, I am, over participating with my moon, because I'm blocked as far as my North Node's concerned. So I'm not able to reach my destiny. So I'm kind of just staying back here in my emotions or licking my wounds because I feel like I'm a failure. And so we also want to think about, this is how, food, and this is on a spiritual level, how food fits into our self-development and our growth and our ascension. So of course we know that it fits in terms of, are you setting yourself up for chronic disease? I like to say, are you training for chronic disease? This is the Olympics. Are you training yourself to have a heart attack in 20 years? Or are you training yourself for prevention and a healthy long life until you're 120 years old, which is I am training myself for. But how do you know I am drinking coffee? So I don't know if that's my Pisces identity or what, but I like coffee. And it's habitual. Okay. So, and then cooking for others, are you cooking for other people? Have you found yourself in a situation where, maybe your spouse is from a different culture than you? Maybe you've had to adapt things from your own childhood. Or do you just cook like your mother cooked? Do you have that? Have you just, even though it might not be the best food for you? So there's a whole lot of things wrapped up in how you relate, how I relate to my diet, how I relate to my food. And of course, that's also how we relate to other people when we meet them, not necessarily as long-term. We can adjust long-term, but the ascendants, how I relate, do you connect with people over food? Is that something that really, do you like the people and hang out with the people that you like? Do you gravitate towards going out for fancy dinners, or cooking food at home, or watching Sex and the City and eating, a gallon of ice cream? So we want to think about ourselves, like how are we creating our identity of ourself, because it's reflecting back, our sun sign's reflecting back on our ascendant as it's looking at it, to what we're doing every day, how the ascendant is impeding or is influencing the sun, creating a new identity for ourselves, because what we do every day is us, right? So the ascendant is very important. When I listen to other astrologers, and of course I'm not an astrologer, but I have started to use it more and more over the past few years in my practice. And as I keep explaining on this channel, I feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record, but I have to say it for my own self, because spirituality and being a spiritual guru is in my North Node. It is in my destiny. And so I know that this is what I am, as much as I love the biochemistry and I love the nutrition and everything, but I have to work this into the spiritual arena. And I have to also honor myself as, as being a twin flame, as being an enlightened being, as being a wanderer on this planet, somebody who's come back to teach this planet how to be. I've always been a teacher, and this is my role. And so I think that I can help people a lot using the astrology tools, how to be healthy, as well as, because it's hard for people to find out what to eat. And we do have to do self-discovery. And even if you go to an expert and they tell you, take gluten out, take dairy out, take coffee out, then that might work, but then there's more spiritual growth to go. Like those might peel away layers so that your stomach stops hurting, or so that you can lose weight, or so that your thyroid is better, and all that is wonderful. And that's kind of like taking a blanket off of you so that you can be more in tune with your soul and your soul's mission and what your unconscious is telling you. You get more sensitive. The more we detox, the more we get more sensitive. And then the more we can fulfill our mission because we can know ourselves better and where we're going. If we're constantly being, let's say, medicated, blanketed by all of these, whether it's food we're choosing or alcohol we're choosing or other thoughts, allowing other people to control us, or the news, all of these interfering energies, they can be from our own, derision, what's that word? We can derive them ourselves. And we are essentially in choosing what we're doing. Okay, and then there's one more thing, the North Node. And the North Node is very important because the North Node is your destiny, right? And so you're leaving, the importance of the North Node is that the South Node is behind you. And so those might be patterns. If you know your South Node, those might be comfort zones. Those might go into, how you identified as a kid or what you eat as, I am a vegetarian, I am kosher, I am, Pakistani, I am Canadian. So you might identify with any of those cultures that influence how you eat, but is that really the best thing for you? So it's an interesting question, actually, and I'm just going to take a little tangent here because we tend to think of ourselves in some aspects of spirituality. We think, okay, go back to your childhood in order to find out who you were, right? But actually, when we were children and Saturn was controlling us so much more, especially by those of us who have Saturn strongly placed in their charts, and I do because my Saturn's conjunct my ascendant. But anyway, Saturn is in our sign everywhere, and Saturn controls us more in our first 30 years, right? Because then after that, we can make more of a choice, and we've already done the thing. So the first 30 years of our life, we're really living a little bit blindly under what's given to us, what we've been presented with as our life, as our lifestyle. I just saw that movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, and that is a very interesting case because Freddie Mercury, was born and raised to be somebody entirely different than who he actually was. And he did fulfill those roles. He fulfilled them, but then as he kind of got older, he started veering off much more so, much to the disappointment of his father. And this is kind of a classic story, but this is because somebody's South Node, somebody was as a child and, in past lives, if we would believe in that, which I do, of course, is totally different than who they are in their destiny, who they have to create themselves. And he had a very short destined life. He only lived till he was 45. So he had a lot of time. He had to start young to kind of make this up and really make the most out of his destiny. And I hope that he did do that. I hope that his life was fulfilled, even though he only died when he was 45. Oh, a little bit of emotion there for Freddie Mercury because he was such a genius. And it is a good movie. I really enjoyed it. And so even though I've been watching documentaries on it prior, so I already knew kind of all the details and I've been listening to Queen. But their music is amazing. I love their music. So the North Node is the destiny. So it's not how you default back to what you knew as a child. It's not about having, we kind of have to sometimes get away from this, and whether this is to the pain and chagrin of our family or for our own self. And which even might be more, right? Like Freddie had to deal with his own homophobia, for instance, and he seemed to have no problem. It's portrayed as no problem leaving his culture, but definitely a problem leaving how he identified with himself as, a potential father or a family man. So all these, it's hard. It's hard to move towards our destiny. It's hard to go towards calling, purpose, future. But this is very much related. Knowing your North Node also shows you where you are, whether that's related specifically to food or whether that's just to help bring you out of where you've been, where you felt stuck, so that the bad habits that you have been doing are no longer relevant. And or maybe it is about food. Maybe your North Node calling is about feeding others. Maybe maybe it's Cancer. North Node's in Cancer right now, so maybe it is all about nurturing others, and we nurture others through food. Or maybe you are I'm a North Node Sagittarius. I'm a party sign, but my Sagittarius is my 6th house of health. So my destiny is to be, to be a tourist of this world in helping others with their health. I mean, helping others is very much a part of my destiny. And so, I mean, I've always felt like helping others is part of my destiny, but I felt like it in a much more enclosed, locked down way, where I had to take care of people, as opposed to finding how I take care of people in a way that's best for me, in a way that's exploratory, in a way that's big and expansive and spiritual. And this is not easy to call myself like a guru, but this is very much, I own that. I'm starting to own that, so I'm saying it on YouTube. But what about you? This is why you want to know your North Node. And please leave comments, guys. Like, please let me know what you think. I really am trying to grow my channel right now. I really would love to hear what you have to say. So let's get on with the readings. Aries. Okay, so Aries rules the head and the face. The Aries rules the adrenal glands, the stress organs that produce cortisol, wakes us up in the morning. If we have too much cortisol later on in the day, then we can't sleep. Our melatonin suppressed, our growth hormones suppressed. So cortisol is very important, and it's ruled by Aries. So the adrenal glands, the stress glands. The adrenal glands also make other sex hormones, especially after menopause, and always, and especially after the testicles stop making as much testosterone. The adrenal glands make progesterone in women. They make testosterone, they make DHEA, so they make other hormones as well. So Aries people are fire sign, we know that. Usually very busy, very active, on the go. Aries needs a well-balanced diet to maintain good health and energy because they're very active. So they need to eat regular meals. They need to eat carbohydrates, proteins, fats. They need to eat some balance, whatever that means for them, whatever makes them feel good. Now, it's recommended to avoid hot and spicy foods for Aries because they are fiery. They do tend to get heartburn easily. So other foods that might irritate them might be coffee, might be peppermint, might be citrus like oranges or orange juice, pineapples, might be fried food, chocolate, the xanthine foods. I mentioned coffee, but also tea, black tea, and scalding food, very hot food. So these might actually irritate Aries. And so if you are an Aries that gets a heartburn easily, then eat cooling foods that support your liver, support your kidneys. So lots of beans, brown rice, lentils, olives, source of good fat, very flavorful. And then also the cooling greens like lettuce and cucumber and spinach and celery and veal, flounder as a fish, and then figs and apricots for your sweet, pumpkins, bananas. So a real mix of flavors as well. You'll see all the 5 flavors that are represented there. Now, if you want spicy without having hot and burning, you can do a mild chili powder. You can do aromatics like turmeric, cumin, coriander. And also Aries need calcium. They need kale. Now, when I say calcium, I don't necessarily mean diet, but don't necessarily mean dairy, but it could be a kind of dairy that's healthiest for you. So it could be an organic or a pastured cow dairy or a raw dairy or a goat's milk. And then also vegetarian sources of calcium such as kale, sesame, organic tofu, always non-GMO organic tofu. If you're in Canada and the United States, that's a massive concern. If you're elsewhere in the world, maybe not so much. Especially if you're one of the soy-loving countries. I personally am a soy lover. However, the way that soy is reared in North America is horrendous because we block the positive phytoestrogenic effects of soy with pesticides and then soy becomes a toxic estrogenic food. So the difference between an organic and a fermented soy and a conventionally raised soy is really night and day. Taurus. Hi, Taurus. So Taurus rules the throat and the neck, specifically the thyroid gland, the vocal cords, the tonsils. Now, you will notice that when one sign is next to another one, that they do share some similarities. So whereas Aries rule the adrenal glands, well, the adrenal glands is an endocrine organ very tied to the thyroid gland. And then Taurus rules the thyroid gland. You'll also notice a top-down effect. So whereas Aries is the first sign, it rules the head. Where Taurus rules the throat, okay? And then the vocal cords, the tonsils, and the palate. Taurus, the earth sign, may have a tendency to put on weight, especially as they get older, thinner during the younger years, and then tendency to put on weight later. You want to protect the thyroid with iodine-rich foods like seaweed, seaweed snacks, sea salt. Himalayan salt is great, but keep in mind it doesn't have any iodine in it, so you do need to still, and we all do, supplement with some forms of iodine, which is foods that's reared in the sea or grown on land right next to the sea. You know, sapphire greens, some of my favorite food of all time, because I am raised on the Atlantic. I was raised on the Atlantic Ocean, so we did get, you know, salt greens. Keep in mind, iodized salt is a toxic chemical salt. They have put iodine in it so that landlocked people do not get goiters, but it is really not the best. It will raise blood pressure. So seaweed, sea salt, even seafoods, foods that are reared in the oceans, that's fish or shellfish, of course. So Taurus want to eat a diet that's high in water and cooling to balance the earth. So celery is a great snack for them. They want to eat detoxifying food that prevent weight gain and diabetes, and so that's eating protein at breakfast. You want to eat detoxifying vegetables like horseradish, great for the lungs. Cranberries, great for the urinary tract. Swiss chard, great for the liver. Asparagus, great for the kidney and the urinary tract. Beets, great for the liver. Cauliflower, great for the liver also. Cucumbers, good for the kidneys. Spinach, good for the kidneys, high in chlorophyll. Detoxifying. Onions, great for the skin, great for cholesterol, great for the liver as well. And so these are these organs, the organs of elimination. Onions are also great for the lungs, an organ of elimination. Any spicy vegetables like radishes or watercress. Pumpkins, also a stabilizing food. You still need some earth foods with Taurus, and that's also allows you to eat some sweet without going towards sugar. Nuts and beans, of course, also. And you want to avoid, as a Taurus, rich and heavy foods with excessive amounts of carbohydrates, refined carbohydrates. So like pasta, you know, pasta out of vodka sauce would not be good for a Taurus. You know, rich pasta dishes, or lots of white rice, or lots of sugar, candy, sodas, drinking your calories type of deal. And of course, I never, ever, ever condone aspartame. Aspartame is a carcinogen. It is toxic for our digestive tract. So I never promote anything that's made by Monsanto. So just so that you know where I'm coming from. Gemini, hey Gemini. So Gemini rules the shoulders and the arms and the hands and the nervous system and the lungs as well. So, you know, Gemini is mercurial. It's an organ of communication, air sign. You know, kind of all over the place a little bit, airy, vulnerable to upper respiratory tract infections, vulnerable to bronchitis and asthma. Gemini also rules the nerves. And so Geminis can get very anxious. Geminis should really stay away from caffeine. They might love it. They might really crave it because they might want that adrenaline rush and they might want to feel like they're going faster, but they really should avoid that. They want to eat nutritious foods to balance the nervous system. So a lot of high nutrient fruits, peaches, plums, oranges, grapefruits, raisins, apples. And of course, I always recommend as organic or as low pesticide as possible. You can check out the Dirty Dozen list for the year to see which foods are highest in pesticides. And it does tend to be grapes and strawberries and apples every year, as well as the poorest vegetables. So have a look. Gemini should also eat green beans and lettuce and spinach and carrots and celery and tomatoes. They should also have fish, like broiled fish and shellfish, almonds. They can eat spicy foods like cayenne, garlic, ginger to season it up, and wild rice, not too starchy. They want to avoid root vegetables like potatoes and radish, potatoes and sweet potatoes. They want to avoid yeasty foods like bread and beer, and then they want to avoid refined sugar. Now you'll see refined sugar being avoided almost everywhere because refined sugar is almost never good for anybody, especially the quality of the sugar in the United States where I live. But if you're in Canada or the UK or, you know, anywhere over the world, this is pretty much similar, although sugars do come whole. So if it's jaggery or maple syrup or cane sugar or coconut sugar or date sugar, then some of those sugars do at least have some nutrients in it. They're not bleached. You know, there's still sugar. Honey, same thing, still sugar, but has immune properties to it, especially if it's raw, only if it's raw. Cancer. Cancer rules the breast, it rules the chest area, it rules the stomach as well. So it's very much a nurturing sign. And this represents motherhood. Cancers are almost immediately susceptible to stomach pain, feeling stomach pain if they get hurt or if they're scared or, you know, not feeling well, they have a stomach pain. They're very susceptible to gaining weight. It's a very stagnant sign. It is a water sign. Again, mother, nurturing, womb. You know, it's the cocoon of mothering. That's Cancer. They tend to have very delicate digestive system and lots of digestive problems. And even though they love like ice cream, that could possibly be one of the worst foods for Cancer. Also want to stay away from foods that cause gas. And so whether that's lactose in you or carbohydrates or fructans like onions and garlics and asparagus. So it can be different if you're, you know, if you have a condition like SIBO or you follow a low FODMAPs diet or if you're just lactose intolerant or need to avoid gluten or grains. You know, there's all sorts of sensitivities that people have that give them gas. Also, make sure you're chewing your food. Make sure you're savoring your food as a Cancer, so that you're not just, you know, gorging, having gluttonous behavior. But you do want to eat foods that are high in calcium, like egg yolks and oysters. So there are some rich foods that really satisfy a Cancer. Watercress, yogurt. So I always recommend organic plain yogurt. You can sweeten it yourself with fruit or maple syrup, or have it savory. And also that could be Greek yogurt. Also whole grains are good for Cancer. So wheat, whole grain rye, rice, oats, fruits like bananas and apples and berries, and some tropical fruits can be good for Cancer. Steamed vegetables, so vegetables done super plain, broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower to help the liver process. Tomatoes, you know, high in lycopene and beta carotene. Beets, high in nitric oxide, help with the blood pressure, help with the nurturing. So all these foods are very nurturing. Pumpkins, but then also you do need to balance it out so that, you know, the lymphatic system is working properly. You know, on an energy level, you know, breast cancer is a very Cancerian condition because it's a blocked love, inability to express love, inability to receive love. This could be kind of more cultural as to why it's an epidemic right now, because we're not encouraged to love each other. You know, we have so many. We're really encouraged to be skeptical of other people and to blame other people as opposed to kind of nurturing ourselves. Cancers really need to nurture themselves and learn to nurture themselves in a healthful way, and not run themselves ragged either. And avoid oily foods, avoid ice cream, avoid deep fried foods, avoid salt, excessive salt, and excessive sugar, refined sugar particularly. I mentioned ice cream. Leo, hi Leo. So Leo, fire sign, Leo, very robust and healthy constitution they have. Leo rules the spine, the back, the spinal column, the heart, the spleen, the vitality, the pumping of the blood, the passion, also the love, but like in a pure love way, not so much in a nurturing way, like more as like giving love, or receiving praise also, but like getting active and getting things done and doing things for people. And you know, great energy Leos, right? Usually excellent dancers and athletes, but push themselves very hard, so they could suffer strain. Leos love healthy lives. They generally love to, you know, go be outdoors and be active. But as they get older, they do have to learn how to slow down because they might be at risk for heart attack later in life. Leos do need a lot of carbs, especially when they're busy in life. But when we say carbs, we want them to be whole grain. So, and especially if your lifestyle changes, you know, this is what we see a lot. Like a football player was so fit and then stopped playing football and they still eat the same amount as they used to. And then all that muscle looks like it turns to fat, right? Like they just get huge. And so this is kind of, you know, a Leo picture that can happen, and then all of a sudden they're at risk for heart disease and getting bypassed and all of this, or there's like cardiomegaly happening in the large heart, and so there's lots of pressure on the heart. So while Leos do need lots of carbs, you want it to match your lifestyle. Like if you're exercising all the time, then you need a lot of carbs so that you burn, the sugar that's in your bloodstream. But if you don't burn it, if you're not exercising it, then all that sugar is just going to turn to get stored as fat. I mean, sugar really does turn to fat in the body. The body does that because the body cannot store sugar. So this is, you want to drink goat's milk instead of cow's milk, Leo. Eat rye bread, whole grains, dark berries. Again, that's good for circulation, good for the heart. Citrus, lemons, limes, grapefruit, apples, figs, lemons, peaches, asparagus, root vegetables like potatoes, carrots, and radishes, spinach, broccoli, kale, mustard greens, nuts, almonds, protein shakes, like whey protein shakes or pea protein shakes, lots of good protein and amino acids, sunflower seeds, figs, eggs, whole eggs, egg yolks, and avoid deep fried, avoid fast food, avoid poor quality dairy products, processed cheese and milk and spicy foods. So avoid foods that can cause inflammation in the arteries. Also has trans fats, deep fried. You definitely want to make sure that you're having the antioxidants in there from the berries and the green vegetables and the root vegetables. Have all the colors every day so that you minimize inflammation so that those arteries won't get clogged. Virgo, beautiful earth sign. Is Virgo the smartest sign of the zodiac? Is Virgo the most misunderstood sign of the zodiac? Virgo is ruled by the nervous system and the intestines, so they do tend to be kind of a nervous character, different than Gemini, who's always like flitting around and showing off their vocal prowess, their verbal prowess. Virgo is more in the brain, in their analytics. So they tend to suffer from conditions of worrying and over-processing information and fixating. So they have indigestion and ulcers and gas pains and liver upset and colitis and bowel problems. So inflammatory bowel diseases or irritable bowel syndrome. Virgoans tend to be a little bit fastidious or a lot fastidious, worrying about their health, maybe hypochondriacs, or just very concerned about their health, but worrying about it. And so they might be proactive, and it is good if a Virgo can get proactive without, maybe a Virgo is also the opposite sign to Pisces. And so Virgo also rules the sixth house, which is the house of health. So Virgo's ruling planet has dominion over the brain and the nervous system, and it also controls links between the mind and the functions of the body. So this is the gut-brain connection, the gut-mind-gut axis, the microbiome, the production of serotonin mostly gets done in the intestines, and as long as the intestinal health is good, then the brain can actually use that serotonin, right? And so in order to support the brain, we need to support the digestive tract in Virgo's case, especially. So you want to avoid inflammatory products like milk and ice cream. You want to eat plenty of fiber, good omega-3 fatty acids to support busy brain, support slow food. Coconut oil is very good, avocados, high omega-3 eggs, pastured eggs, fish, fresh seafood. So the omega-3 fishes, fatty acids, salmon, mackerel, albacore tuna, sardines, herring, codfish from the Atlantic, or wherever you trust the source, and nuts and seeds like pumpkin seeds and walnuts, good brain food, whole grains and cereals, oats. So to help stabilize the blood sugar, that should be whole. Fruit salads, fruit juice, lemon juice, fresh juices. Bananas, oranges, leafy greens, vegetables, and spices on the vegetables, sprouts, soups, teas, almonds, foods that are good for a constitution. Maybe the brat diet is applicable to the Virgo, so when you do get a bout of diarrhea, then you eat bananas, rice, apples, and toast. That is the brat diet to reduce diarrhea in the moment. Now, if you do have inflammatory bowel disease or something like that, and prone to diarrhea all the time, or have irritable bowel disease, then eating the brat diet is not a long-term solution, but it is something if you have inflammation in the moment. Of course, lots of turmeric, anti-inflammatory, and omega-3s, as I mentioned. Coconut oil. Avoid rich and heavy foods. Avoid chocolate. Avoid too many stimulants, Virgo. Just make you more nervous and edgy and irritable. Also not good for you know, the digestive tract. Anything that's too hot also might go right through you. Libra. Libras rule the kidney and the lumbar, the lower back region. It rules the butt, like the upper butt, the gluteus maximus, buttocks. As a rule, Libras have good health. Libras are very balanced. They naturally are inclined towards balance in their lifestyle. And so this is a key to the health and well-being of Libra. So to eat a balanced diet, to have a balanced work, to have balanced relationships with other people, to not spend too much time in the day doing any one thing. They really need to share their time, to spread themselves like the gift that they are. Libra kind of goes wide. It doesn't go very deep. And so it kind of should spread itself around in balance. The best foods for Libras to eat are high alkaline vegetarian diet that includes foods like peas and corns and raisins and spinach and almonds and brown white rice and wild rice and oatmeal. Omega-3 fishes, the salmon, the mackerel, the albacore tuna, the sardines, the herring, the good quality cod, seafood, also whole grains, oats, apples, grapes, strawberries. Again, keep in mind of the Dirty Dozen list. You want to check out the 2018 Dirty Dozen list, especially if you're in the United States or Canada, to make sure that you're not having excessive pesticides, or go organic when possible. Raisins, steamed vegetables, spinach, tomatoes, peas, non-dairy cheeses like Daiva or cashew cheeses, vegan yogurt, nuts. Libras want to avoid alcohol. They want to avoid carbonated and yeasty foods like beer and bread and refined sugar and coffee and all these acidic foods, processed meats, nitrates, excessive salt, deep fried foods. Now you'll notice that the bad foods are always bad. So, refined sugar is never good. Deep fried foods are never good. But some people's constitutions can handle them better, especially when they're young. And the ways that which sugar and salt and deep fried foods affect different constitutions, different signs, also changes. So now we've made it to Scorpio. Sorry guys, I just had to plug in my computer. So we're at Scorpio. Rules the genitals and the sexual organs, prone to STDs and venereal infections. If you have Scorpio in your chart, you know that this to be true. Also, of course, excessively associated with excessive sex, and also emotional difficulties. So to whatever extent sex and emotions are tied together, but Scorpions are affected by their emotions. And not so much nervousness or something like that when it comes to Virgo or Gemini, but more depression. And so it's very important for Scorpios to drink 8 glasses of water a day. It's important for them to have aphrodisiac style food, so sexy foods with good cholesterol like zinc and oysters and snails and figs and avocados. So all those kind of aphrodisiac, slippery texture foods are very good for Scorpios in terms of their satisfaction. Also want to stabilize their immune system. So Scorpios want to make sure to eat soups and stews and not burn their candles at both ends, and to eat enough and to eat well enough, and to pay attention to their diet and not get neglectful of their diet and of themselves. They can eat, they can withstand a lot of fruit like black cherries, and dairy like cottage cheese and onions and watercress and parsnips and asparagus, banana, coconut, steamed veggies, green salads, leeks, cauliflower, onions, radishes, tomatoes, asparagus, cucumbers, beets, beans, lentils like legumes, almonds, nuts. They really should avoid processed food. They really should avoid anything that brings down their immune system. Gluten and wheat and fructans are really tend to be good for Scorpions. Like alcohol, doesn't agree with them. Bread doesn't agree with them. Beer doesn't agree with them. Fast food doesn't agree with them. Processed food, boxed food doesn't agree with them. Scorpions, depending on what else is in their chart, might have stomach ailments, might have sensitivities. And so they really want to make sure that they're hydrated and eating simple foods, but high nourishing foods. Sagittarius. So Sagittarius rules the hips, it rules the thighs and the liver and the pituitary gland as well as its endocrine organ. So the pituitary gland is way up in the brain and produces our thyroid stimulating hormone and is responsible for producing our growth hormone. And so, very important organ that regulates part of our circadian rhythm. And physical activity is an absolute must with Sagittarius. They are vulnerable to sciatica, though, and they're vulnerable to gout because of their excesses. And they're vulnerable to hip disease, dislocations, labral tears, and sometimes lameness, not being able to walk, foot problems, nerve problems, like in physical nerve, like the sciatic nerve. They have a sensitive liver that almost instantly suffers from overuse of alcohol. They might get hepatitis. They might get high liver enzymes. Be kind of destroying themselves through debauchery. They have to eat foods that support liver health. And a lot of these signs need to eat food to support liver health. But specifically for Sagittarius, they need to eat high protein with beets, tomatoes, plums, chicken, fish, could be whey, organic whey, yogurt, pea protein, amino acids, good quality soy. It could be leafy greens, so the brassica family of vegetables, Brussels sprouts, arugula, watercress, mustard greens, broccoli rabe, rapini, radicchio. They also want to eat some whole grains and whole grain cereals like oats or buckwheat. They can eat fruits like apples and oranges and grapefruits and lemons and limes, strawberries. They can eat root vegetables like potatoes and carrots and radishes and turnips. They can eat onions. They can eat olives and figs and garlic. But they shouldn't eat too much spice. It can irritate their gallbladder. They want to make sure that they're eating some fat, but most importantly, eating foods that trigger the gallbladder on a daily basis, like those bitter foods that I mentioned, even like apple cider vinegar, good for the gallbladder. They want to avoid sauces and chocolate and, putting extra sauce on their chicken or their meat or always having sauce with something. It's too rich for them. It can cause a gallbladder attack. They may get pain in the middle of their back, or they may get pain in the middle of the center of their abdomen. They want to avoid alcohol as much as possible. They want to avoid sugar. Capricorn, earth sign Capricorn. So a very stable sign that's ruled by bones, joints, knees, teeth. And so they're vulnerable to rheumatism, joint pain, arthritis, neuralgia, shooting pains through the joints or in the muscles, stiff joints, orthopedic problems with their feet, walking issues, gait problems. Capricorns tend to have trouble with alcohol consumptions because Capricorns don't tend to take very good care of themselves. They do tend to do things in excesses for too long a period of time. They overwork and then they skip meals and then they'll eat too much at one time, for instance. Or they'll, stay out all night at a party and then forget all about time, that they have to be up in the morning and then have to get up and then start their day having, with a hangover or something like that. They need to eat, because it rules the joints and the bones and the teeth, they need to eat calcium-rich foods like kale and broccoli and spinach and corn and potatoes with lime and peas and soups and peanuts, peanut butter, organic as much as possible without sugar if possible, whole wheat, oats, brown rice, flax seeds, sesame, organic soy. They also do well with oranges and lemons, and putting lemon on any iron and calcium-rich foods really helps to extract the minerals even more. They also should eat raw salads like sprouts and fresh fruits like oranges or lemons. Lean protein, so chicken and fish and turkey, eggs in the diet. And they should avoid rich and heavy foods, spicy foods, and alcohol likely. So, too much fatty meats they should avoid. might give them indigestion or inflammation. Definitely processed foods that are high in, that's going to raise their inflammatory levels. Bad quality food, they should really avoid that. Aquarius. Aquarius rules the circulatory system. It rules the calves. It rules the shins and the ankles. It is an air sign. They tend to suffer problems with movement, circulation problems, varicose veins, hardening of the arteries, anemia, low blood pressure. So they need foods that are going to keep their iron levels up. They need a healthy diet. They need movement. They need to breathe deeply in order to increase blood flow. They need to maintain their vitality and energy, and they need to keep their weight at a really good level. So Aquarius tend to be snackers, grabbing this thing, eating the wrong things while on the run, making a decision that they're just going to eat whatever they want, but not at all is good for them. So they want to develop a little bit of a system as to what time they're going to eat, organize themselves with a schedule, and really sit down and eat a proper meal, so they're not just like, oh, I grazed all day, and then want to, eat a big meal at night and their blood sugar goes out of balance. So they want to eat ocean fish like mackerel, tuna, lobster, sardines, herring, halibut, flounder, vegetarian foods like spinach, corn, almonds, walnuts, pears, apples, steamed vegetables, cabbage, celery, corn, carrots, tomatoes, broccoli, organic soy, nuts, dates, figs, cayenne, garlic, ginger, low sugar protein bars like nut bars or vegetable bars, or even like a good quality granola bar that hasn't had added sugar. They want to make sure that what they're eating, it has protein and omega-3s and vegetables in it, so that they're satisfied, so they're grounded, and so that they're able to, go away from food for a few hours, and then they can grab another meal when they're hungry in a few hours. They love coffee, they love soda and cola and yeasty foods and refined sugar, and those are all the things that they should avoid. They should avoid coffee. They should eat regularly, starting with breakfast, so that their blood sugar maintains in balance. Eat anti-inflammatory foods and eat iron-rich foods, like cook in a cast iron pan, or have enough have little bits of red meat or liver even in their diet. Similar to Pisces, are right next to each other. They both need to focus on their iron levels. Pisces, water sign, last sign, rules the feet and the toes, rules the mucous membranes. That's the inside of the nose, the inside of the mouth, the oral cavity, the pharynx and all the soft tissue around the stomach and the intestines. So all the way down, the mucous membranes go all the way to the anus. The sense of taste and smell are exceptionally acute with Pisces. They have a very delicate constitution that do not easily fight off illness. They really need, their illnesses do tend to be emotionally based. Maybe they feel wounded or hurt, and then they project that inside. So they're very susceptible to viruses, threats from the outside, Also susceptible to accidents because they might not be paying attention. They do tend to overindulge in eating and drinking because wherever they are, it might satisfy them to do so, and that's what they want to do in the moment. So they end up keeping late hours, and then they end up getting a virus or getting sick, and that's not good for Pisces. Pisces they only need minimum care because they can bounce back very quickly, but they need to eat a balanced diet, moderate exercise. They need to rest properly so that they can feel better and recover quickly and not be so, bombarded by what's going on around them. They need to eat food that supports their blood, their liver, and their brain functions. They do have a downfall of overeating and overdrinking, and overtaking of any drugs is very Piscean. So they want to eat foods that are rich in iron, like protein, like lean beef, lamb, egg yolks, oysters, kidneys, so organ meats, whole grain cereals, barley, dried beans, beet tops, spinach. All these foods are very high in iron. You might need to squeeze some lemon on it to extract the iron, or put some apple cider vinegar, cook in a cast iron pan to help with some acid to help extract the iron. They also want to be having foods like lettuce and onions and raisins and dates, so that are nourishing but easy to digest. Eat whole grain cereals, so rye and barley and quinoa and spelt, oats, fruits, apples, grapes, citrus, peaches, plums, steamed veggies, stir-fried veggies, seaweeds. They want to maintain their mineral levels. dates, so seaweeds like dulse and kelp and hijiki and arame, seaweed snacks, natural sugars, and of course they want to avoid anything they can get addicted to. Here's a Pisces right here, coffee. I try to do 1 cup a day, but right now I'm on 2, going to be very honest. And then you can't sleep, can you? But anyway, coffee, oily foods, yeasty foods, alcohol, asparagus, because not good for their urinary tract, salt, refined sugar. You know, the same old things are bad for everybody, but it is as to why it's affecting us and how much in excess and what we're prone to and what our tendencies are. So this was a very general reading. Of course, it matters as to what sign you are and what is going to affect your health predominantly, what your sun, moon, rising, and even north node is, and what sign is in your 6th house as well, and any of the aspects. And so I have started reading charts. I've been taking one of Rick Levine's courses, started reading charts, and especially when it comes to health. But all around, I am offering a special if you would like a 30-minute reading on your astrology as far as your health is concerned, and I will also pick some cards for you. Then I'll tell you, you know, then book your session. The link is below, and this is a very big special to grow my channel. I also have a couple of other specials, a 10-minute reading for $15. It's a card reading, a 20-minute reading, which is a card reading, as well as I answer a question that you have for $25. These are all going to be recorded videos, guys. These are not going to be live sessions, but book it, pay it, and then I'll get in contact with you ASAP. If you book something where I need a question or if I need your astrology chart, then I will ask for that, and then you'll send me that as well as your health concerns, and I'll make the recording and send it out to you. And I hope this has been very, very helpful for you. Please leave your comments below. Please like and subscribe my channel. I am trying to grow my channel. This would be a big, big help. I think this information is really important. I don't think very many people are covering it. I know I've got a special skill set when it comes to nutrition and spirituality. And when it comes to spirituality altogether, you know, as a practitioner, then, you know, I'm at a different place in terms of my awakening, and I would love to share everything that I have with you. So please do like and subscribe and get the notifications as to when I will be on so that you can tune in and follow along with me. Love having you here. Love you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll chat soon.